I don't really like it.
Yeah, it's ugly. The glyph lights are gone, and replacing them is this small display on the back upper corner of the phone. On its face, this has some usefulness about it, but then it's also surrounded by gimmicks. Now they have opened up the API, so developers, if they want to, can make more stuff for the back screen. With this phone, I don't really know how many actually will. Like, is Spotify going to make like album art, cover art on the back of the phone here? I don't know. Real talk though, it feels like every few months nothing comes out with a new product that looks crazy and people hate on all the pictures on the internet because they look weird, and then 2 months later we're all used to it and we forget about the looks and we can focus on the product itself. The camera setup is just one notch behind those things, and you may only notice if you're zooming in and pixel peeping, but again, that's the point. Mostly good enough for most people most of the time. I think with a little tuning, this can be an A- camera.
Improving.
The real best part of a Nothing phone is still the software on the front of the phone. Because Nothing OS 3.5, soon to be updated to 4.0, it's just great. Like, they have this tastefully modified version of Android with this nice aesthetic, finely tuned, smooth performance, and a handful of useful features that they just sort of sprinkle in there so you can sort of choose which ones you want to use or easily ignore. So this Nothing Phone 3, it's certainly dressed up like a flagship. Like, it's got all the makings of what could be a flagship, but when you peel back the mask just a little bit, like right under the surface, it's the same exact strategy that Nothing has been running on all their previous phones in the past. The playbook is to just cut back just a little bit from the highest end stuff in ways that hopefully you, the buyer, don't notice, and it still feels like a flagship, but that allows them to cut costs and undercut the competition a little bit. So it works. It's not a bad strategy. It's allowed them to make great phones in the past, but it's just harder to sell that strategy at this price. For some context, some other phones using this chip, the Poco F7 and the iQOO Neo 10. Both of these are sub $500 phones. They are charging $799 for this phone. And there are other really good phones that you can get for that much money. So this phone, just like previous Nothing phones, is the one that you would get if you really care not so much about raw specs, but about good software and a unique design. You don't want another crab. You want lobster.
I've actually been a big fan of Nothing's whole transparent aesthetic. Pretty much every Nothing phone I've seen thus far has instantly vibed with me. But this is the first one that hasn't. This strange spacing between the various points of interest, and the fact that this camera is very close to being aligned with this one, but it's just a little tiny bit off. It all gives me real unfinished prototype energy. If lights were, while clearly flawed, still iconic and extremely cool. Whereas this is just a screen. We've seen plenty of phones already with screens on the back, and those screens have already been bigger, higher resolution, and in color. The chipset that Nothing has gone for is the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4, which is not the very highest end Snapdragon 8 Elite that Samsung uses. Plus, no real mention of any kind of advanced cooling system. So, while Nothing has been pretty good so far at always picking the sensible middle ground chip and doing a lot of software work behind the scenes to get the most out of it, there's no way that it doesn't get absolutely mowed down by Samsung in a head-to-head. When it comes to games, I do think that Nothing's OS is one of the best ways to experience Android. I like the fact that your icons aren't screaming for your attention. There are some parts of the UI which are quite unconventional and, in my opinion, just very beautifully laid out. And the biggest thing, it's completely bloatware. The thing that is completely new this time, Essential Search, which is swipe up from the bottom of your screen to be able to quickly get to anything. So the idea is very similar to your phone's universal search, but it's just a little bit broader. Like, it can solve maths problems directly on device in that search box. And if you ask questions, it'll use a tweaked version of Gemini AI to give you an answer that's specifically designed to be short, you know, for those random quick lookups. It's a good idea. I'm all about having to go into each app less because one app does more.
So nothing Phone 3's camera, it can keep up with most flagships because in good light, like those other devices, it can produce some really great images. But in low light, like those other devices, the image is fine. What I actually feel is lacking in this camera system though is something special. And the Phone 3 just doesn't have a specialty that both sets it apart from other nothing devices or the rest of the flagship market here in the US. Some folks hate the asymmetrical camera rounds, other folks miss the larger glyph interface, and some folks are just good at making memes.